Hey everyone, Matt here with Reach Your Summit. Storing your food properly on a backpacking trip is not only part of the leave no trace principles, but it will help provide safety, allow you to enjoy your campsite at night, and also keep the wildlife wild. In this video, I'm going to go over a couple of options that I like to use on my backpacking trips, including one that I've used for several years on thru-hikes, and what I'm currently using on all of my trips. Now, the first method that I'll use on a backpacking trip is a bear box. Now, whether I'm doing a thru-hike or if I'm doing some weekend mileage on a trail, I'll always try to stay at a designated campsite. Some of these sites will have bear boxes. They're really easy to use, there's no fuss. Another method that I've used that might be required in some areas are a hard-sided bear canister. But those can be very heavy, around 2.5 pounds or a little bit more, unless you go with a very expensive carbon fiber option, which can set you back about $300 or so. In areas out west in the High Sierra, I've needed to use a bear canister. Montana, I've needed to use a bear canister. Up in the high peaks in the Adirondacks, I've also needed to use a bear canister. Some areas in the country will require you to use one. Sometimes things might not go to plan. You might end up not being in your campsite that you planned on for the night. You might have to camp out somewhere else. Also on a thru-hike, you might end up running into a lot of other hikers that are already using that bear box. It's happened to me up in the White Mountains in New Hampshire. It's happened to me on the Appalachian Trail. So when a bear box is not an option for me, there are two other methods that I will use. And on my trip, I will always make sure to have one of these methods with me, regardless of whether or not I'm planning on using a bear box. So let me show you those two options, and we'll go through the benefits and drawbacks of both, and then I'll show you how I use those two methods while I'm out on a backpacking trip. Now this is one of my kits. So this is going to be one of the lightest options out there. It's also going to be the most cost effective. The total weight for this kit that I'm going to show you is around 6.5 to 7 ounces. You can go with a lighter option by a brand like ZPacks, which will be around 2 ounces, but it will be a little bit more in cost than going with this method. So I have just a standard 10-liter dry bag. This is an REI dry bag. You don't have to go with that specific brand. You can find a lot of other options out there. I do recommend going with a dry bag because it will help keep your stuff drier and a little more protected. So this one here is 10 liters in size. Depending on the amount of days that you're out, your specific type of nutritional needs, your group size, your chosen resupply points, those are all going to be factors in which bag you go with. I'm pretty comfortable with a 10-liter bag. I've gotten about a week's worth of food out of this. A lot of your hard-sided bear canisters are going to be around 10 to 11 liters in size. So you're not straying too far from what you would typically carry if you went with a hard-sided canister. The total cost for this specific kit is going to be around $35 to $40. Inside of this bag is my entire kit. So I will always use an OP sack by Ursack or some type of odor-proof bag. Now I know what you may be thinking. I can put all of my stuff in a freezer bag and it will help block odors. It will not. If you put coffee grounds into a freezer bag, eventually in a few hours you're going to start smelling those coffee grounds. These bags are military grade plastic. They're a lot thicker and they do help keep odors from being released from the bag until you open it to get out what you want to eat or drink. And I've gotten about a month of use out of one of these on a thru-hike before the seams started fraying on me and I needed to replace the bag. This specific bag is 12 inches wide by 20 inches long. and I will line my food bag, whatever method I'm using, outside of a hard-sided bare canister, because that's just going to be redundant using this and a canister. But I'll start by putting all of my scented items inside of this bag. The next thing in my kit is 40 to 50 feet of cordage. And this specific rope I have here is 3 millimeters thick. It has a tensile strength of 400 foot-pounds, so it's going to hold up under a lot of weight. You want 40 to 50 feet of cordage so you're not running short and you're getting a proper bear bag hang when you're using the method that I'm going to go over. Then I have a climbing grade carabiner. This is actually a Petzl carabiner. This can tolerate a lot of force pulling on it, over a couple thousand pounds. I'm not going to be exceeding that with my food bag. I like to go with a climbing carabiner just because it can tolerate more abuse and weight. If I go with a small keychain one, chances are that's going to snap or break, can force my food bag to drop to the ground. So I'll go with that. And then this isn't necessary, but for me personally, when I'm using this method, I like to invest in a small mesh bag, or you can go with a small sil nylon or Cuban fiber bag, and I'll use this as my rock bag. This takes all of the abuse from the rock. I've seen people tie their rope to a rock and use that to get the rope over the tree branch instead, and they've had that come down on another rock and it ended up snipping or tearing the cordage that they had, and they lost out on that extra length that they needed. It doesn't happen all the time, but I have seen it happen. So on a backpacking trip, when I'm out hiking during the day, I'll take my bear bag hanging kit. I'll store it right at the bottom of my food bag. Then I'll store this bag inside of my food bag as a liner. And then I'll put all of my scented items inside of here. And then I'll store that inside of my pack. I'll have snacks that I'm snacking on during the day in outer pockets, just so it's easier to access and I don't have to keep frequently taking this out of my pack. When I get to camp, all I have to do is pull this bag out, pull my kit out, put this back inside, and then hang my food bag properly, which I'll show you. By keeping the entire kit together, I don't have to worry about losing any pieces. I know exactly where it is at all times, and it just makes the experience a lot more enjoyable. It saves me time and extra fuss. So when I'm using this kit here, I will use the PCT method. And in order to do so, I want to make sure I'm 200 feet away from my campsite. And then I have to find a branch that's at least 20 to 25 feet high. So, as you can see, sometimes it's difficult to find a branch to hang your food bag on. So you have to search around, and as I said, you want to be 200 feet away from your campsite, 200 feet away from a water source, and 200 feet away from your kitchen area. Alright, the other thing you want to keep in mind when you're using the PCT method is with black bears, you want your bag to be hanging at least 10 to 12 feet above the ground. In grizzly country, you want your bag to be at least 15 feet above the ground. The other thing is you want to make sure that your bear bag is hanging about 6 feet away from the base of the tree. So I found my branch that's going to be about 20 feet high above the ground. And I also have a good amount of length that's going to allow my bag to be 6 feet away from the base of the tree. So that's a good branch. So the first thing I'll do is I'll take one end of my rope and I'll tie a figure 8. What's nice about this knot is when it's pulled on, it tightens even more, and it's very easy to untie. Once I have this knot, I'll take my carabiner, clip it in, take my rock bag and a hefty size rock that I found, put that inside of the rock bag, cinch this down, and then I'll take the rock bag, I'll clip it to the carabiner also, so it looks like that. Then I want to toss this up above that branch that's 20 feet high. This is one of the drawbacks of the PCT method. A lot of hikers might find themselves tired and not be able to throw the rock over a branch that high. It might be difficult finding a branch that high, and some people just might not tie everything properly. So I'll take my rock bag and my carabiner, everything's clipped together, and I throw it over that branch. Alright, then I take my food bag. I have all of my scented items inside of here, so not just my food, but also any hygiene products, any lip balm, sunblock, insect repellent. If I'm eating out of my cook pot, then I will make sure to put that cook pot inside of the food bag too. Anything that has a scent. And it's not so much the bears or the moose or deer that I've ever had to worry about. It's the mini bears, the mice, the squirrels, chipmunks, raccoons, possums. That branch is a little higher than the length of line that I currently have on me. So, for the sake of demonstration to show you all, I've lowered it down to this branch here. So I'll take my food bag, clip it in, then I'll take the other end, I'll pull that bag up, and I'll clip this line right into here, like that, and hoist it up. Once I have it about a couple of inches from the branch I'm hanging it from, I'll take this line and at about as high as I can reach, I'll find a stick that is thick enough where it won't snap under pressure, and I'll tie a clove hitch. So I'll wrap it around. It looks like that. So for the clove hitch, make a loop, just like that. And I'll take these two, I'll wrap this other end around the other side, like that. And I'll take this end and I'll feed it up through here. Then I take my stick, put it through both of those, and pull both ends. And it looks like that. Then as I let this go, gets caught, and the bag is successfully suspended above the ground. Then whenever I want to get things down, I just grab this line, pull down, and slide this stick out. So that's the PCT method. As you saw, there's a little bit of fuss involved. I've since switched to another method that I'm going to show you now. I've been very happy with it. It's very simple to use, but it will cost a little bit more. So that method is the Ursack. This is a Kevlar bag, so it's made out of bulletproof material, and it's been tested and approved by the Intra-Agency Grizzly Bear Committee. This one here is the Ursack Major. It is 10.7 liters in size. You can also get the Major XL, which will increase your weight and the storage capacity. And you can also go with the Ursack Almighty. I chose the Major because I've gotten about a week's worth of food inside of this without any trouble. If you eat a little bit more, or you want to carry a little bit more, or you need a little bit more space, you're on longer stretches between resupplies, the Ursack Major XL is going to be about 15 liters in size. The one I have here is 7.7 ounces. The Ursack Major XL is 8.8 ounces. So depending on which one you go with, it will be a little bit more in weight than what I showed you with the PCT method. It'll be significantly heavier than if you went with the ZPacks food bag and bear kit, but it's worth its weight in gold in my opinion. I will take the weight penalty to spend more time on the trail and less time having to fuss with finding a spot to hang my bear bag. So the cost of this one is $85. The Major XL is $100. And I mentioned the Ursack Almighty. So the Almighty has another liner inside of this bag, and that will be good against the mini bears that I mentioned earlier in this video, the little critters. But I haven't had any issues with critters with this bag yet. The Almighty is a little over 13 ounces, and it's going to be about $135. These are still significantly lighter than a hard-sided bear canister. If I am not required to carry a hard-sided bear canister, this is going to be my chosen method. Along with this, I will not use this on its own ever. I will still use one of those OP sacks by Ursack, and I will line this bag with this odor-proof bag. Let me show you how I will set up the Ursack at a campsite. So while I'm backpacking during the day, same thing. I will keep this loosely stored inside of my pack, and I'll keep my snacks separate so I can get at those during the day. Everything else will stay inside of this. When I'm hanging it at camp, I'll put all of my scented items inside of that odor-proof bag. And I will make sure to have this about 200 feet away from my tent site still, using that Bermuda Triangle with my campsite and kitchen area in relation to where the food bag is hanging. So this rope is always going to be crossed. And if for some reason one of these pops out, just make sure that your rope is crossed. Once that's set, I'll make sure my odor-proof bag is sealed, and I'll cinch this bag down. And you want to make sure that none of the odor-proof bag is exposed. You want this closed as tight as possible so you can't see inside of it. Once I do that, I do a double overhand knot. So I take the rope, cross it over like this. So I'll just wrap that around like that. Wrap that around like that. For extra measure, you can do it again if you wanted to. It's not going to hurt. So it ends up looking like this. And then you pull that tight. So it ends up looking like this. And then I like to just do one more overhand knot, just for extra safety, right above the top like that. Now to hang this, all I need to do is find a branch that's suitable for this bag. I don't have to look for a branch that's 20 feet high. I don't have to throw any rock bag over, but I do need to make sure that the branch I'm hanging it from is going to be thick enough where if a bear or an animal came up and tried to tug on the bag, that branch is not going to snap under pressure. So I like to look for a branch that's about arm size thick, and let's look around. So I've got my branch right here. As I take my rope, and I like to do a figure 8 variation of it. So I just take this, twist it over, feed this line through, and then I pull that tight. So it looks like that. And then when the animal goes to pull on this, this knot is going to lock into place even more. And that's it. If an animal were to pull, this bag is not going to rip with the material. These knots are going to keep it secure so it's not getting ripped off of the branch, and so it's not being ripped open. And that's the Ursack. So those are two methods I like to use when I'm storing food on a backpacking trip. As I mentioned, I have since gone from the PCT method to using the Ursack method on all of my trips, just because it saves me time and it's less frustrating and it allows me to enjoy more time on the trail. If a bare canister is required, I will use it in that area that I'm traveling through. If you have any questions on these two methods, on the products themselves, or anything else, please feel free to leave a comment below. Or you can get in touch with me at reachyoursummit.net. As always, thanks for watching, guys. I greatly appreciate the support and your viewership. I hope you found this helpful, and I'll see you on the trail.